So last time we started with storage और उसके अंदर हमने देखा था storage account बनाना, उसके networking and various different things. Just to rehash, right? If you go back over here, let me just close this, right? So if we do, for example, my storage accounts, let me go back into my this one. आपका सारा programming assignment के अंदर you should be going over this one. But if I do this, for example, I'll create a storage account just to rehash where we were. I can say storage account. और हमने बताया था storage account is a starting point to use any of the storage services, right? और इसके अंदर you had different modes, right? Again, ये सारी चीजें you will be using them, but understand, right? If I enable this one, right, everything gets disabled and it says create a private endpoint. मैंने private endpoint के बारे में क्या बताया था? What is private endpoint? बच्चों, these are possibly your quiz questions, right? क्या है private endpoint? क्या प्रॉब्लम डोमेन है प्राइवेट एंड पॉइंट की? यानी कि हम क्यों इस्तेमाल करते हैं? क्या है प्राइवेट एंड पॉइंट? व्हाट इज इट? हाँ, तो मैंने एक तो बाहर की एक्सेस ऑफ की है, बट प्राइवेट एंड पॉइंट, देन व्हाट इज प्राइवेट एंड पॉइंट? मैंने व्हाई वी नीड अ प्राइवेट एंड पॉइंट? व्हाट इज द स्पेसिफिक यूजेज? मैंने आपको बताया था प्राइवेट एंड पॉइंट का. whenever you have a PaaS service, platform as a service, which is pretty much everything. आपके डेटाबेसेस भी हो सकते हैं उसके अंदर, डेटाबेस की सर्विस हो सकती है, आपके स्टोरेज अकाउंट्स हैं, आपकी ऐप सर्विस है, वॉट एवर इट इज. लेट मी जस्ट ड्रॉ द आर्किटेक्चर, ओके, सो यू कैन सी. Platform as a service, this is a starting point. It can be storage, sorry, right? It can be storage, DB, web app, right? Anything. And the intent is to allow internal access, right? Then you create private endpoint. Right? This is the scenario. PaaS service है, आपने internal access तो अगर कोई इंटरव्यू में आपसे पूछे कि व्हाई वी क्रिएट प्राइवेट एंड पॉइंट्स, दिस इज व्हाट इट इज, राइट? कि आपको जो प्लेटफॉर्म एज अ सर्विस मिल रही हैं, इफ यू वांट टू अलाउ क्लाउड ओनली इंटरनल एक्सेस, यू क्रिएट प्राइवेट एंड पॉइंट. एंड आई मीन दिस इज व्हाट हैपेंस, राइट, व्हेन यू डू दिस वन. When you go back, where is my this thing? Okay. Let me see if I can move the recording to this screen so I can record this one. You can see कि मैंने यहाँ पे I disabled for example, I disabled this thing, right? मैंने disable access कर दिया. क्यों? Because I am saying no more public access. It's a PaaS service. Storage account is a PaaS service. मैंने उसकी public access disable कर दिया. And now I'm saying disable कर दिया. And now what it says is, उसने कहा आप private endpoint बनाओ. वो मुझे सीधा उस ऑप्शन के ऊपर लेके गया, right? And when I say private endpoint, right? Now let's take a look what happens over here, right? When I say private endpoint. मैंने आपको क्या बताया था? How private endpoint is created. Before you go, so you need to understand the design and architecture, right? You go back over here, and then we say, okay, what is private endpoint? What does it look like? So, आपकी service है storage. And what it's going to do is, it's going to attach a network card to it. And NIC will go into a VNet / subnet. It goes into a subnet, right? जब भी network card है, वो किसी VNet के subnet के अंदर जाएगा, right? Very simply, virtual network के अंदर. और मैंने आपको बताया था जब भी network card आप किसी virtual network के अंदर डालोगे, क्या restriction है उसकी? ये मैंने आपको बताया था उसके अंदर वर्चुअल मशीन के अंदर, बट सेम कॉन्सेप्ट अप्लाइज ओवर हियर. क्या था इश्यूज का? यू कैन नॉट चेंज द वर्चुअल नेटवर्क. यू कैन नॉट चेंज द वर्चुअल नेटवर्क. ओके, आपने एक दफा साइन कर दिया. यू हैव टू डिलीट दैट नेटवर्क कार्ड और दैट रिसोर्स बिफोर यू कैन मॉडिफाई. इफ यू गो बैक, अ VM कैनॉट एग्जिस्ट विदाउट अ नेटवर्क कार्ड. नेटवर्क कार्ड आपने असाइन कर दिया है, आपने उसके ऊपर इन अ VNet और उसके सबनेट के ऊपर. यू कैन चेंज द सबनेट बट यू कैन नॉट चेंज द VNet. सेम थिंग इज गोइंग टू हैपन ओवर हियर आल्सो, राइट? सो दैट्स व्हाई वी डिजाइन द नेटवर्किंग वेरी केयरफुली बिफोरहैंड. एनीवे, हाँ हाँ, ये अब जिस तरह मैंने बताया था, ये एक VNet है. अगर सबनेट इज सिंपली अ लॉजिकल स्लाइसिंग ऑफ द एड्रेसेस. जिस तरह लास्ट टाइम मैंने आपको बताया था, मेरा /24 था. इट कैन बी डिवाइडेड इनटू हाउ मेनी इक्वल, इफ आई वांट टू से डिवाइड इनटू इक्वल सबनेट्स, a /24 can be divided into which two equal subnet sizes? /25, right? You should know this. I will give you some questions like this, okay? इसको इतने इसमें डिवाइड करो, इसको इतने इसमें डिवाइड करो, इसके इतने डिवाइड करो. I will ask you those kind of things. Make sure you are very comfortable with the networking. This is the very basic thing, right? और अगर किसी को मसला है, प्लीज लेट मी नो. आई विल डू अ ट्यूटोरियल बिफोर द क्विज एज वेल इफ यू आर इंटरेस्टेड. मैंने एक और आपको अपना पिछला वो रिवीजन भेजी थी मैंने, उसकी फास्ट की जो मैंने कोर्स पढ़ाया था, उसके अंदर मैंने करवाया था वो, राइट? सो दिस इज द आर्किटेक्चर, राइट? क्योंकि मैंने आपको इसका ये भी बताया था कि आपकी जो PaaS सर्विसेज होती हैं, द आर्किटेक्चर ऑफ अ PaaS सर्विस इज कि जिस तरह स्टोरेज ग्रुप है, वेब ऐप ग्रुप है, डेटाबेस ग्रुप है, वो क्या करते हैं? वो कहते हैं टू द डेटा सेंटर कि वी नीड this many racks. I'm just speculating, right? Because this is not published. वो कहते हैं हमने सर्विसेज प्रोवाइड करनी है फॉर स्टोरेज. वी नीड दिस मच स्टफ इन द डेटा सेंटर. उन्होंने क्या सर्विस प्रोवाइड करनी है स्टोरेज ने? क्या सर्विसेज के लिए इनको स्टोरेज चाहिए बिसाइड द स्टोरेज? बिसाइड के डिस्क मैंने डाली हुई, क्या चाहिए और? नो, व्हाट एल्स इज देयर? किस चीज के लिए? मैं स्टोरेज, मैं मुझे इसके लिए स्टोरेज जो है, राइट, यू गेटिंग द स्टोरेज। किस चीज के लिए उनको कंप्यूट चाहिए? So I'm talking about storage, right? Storage stream है. Let's say I run the storage stream. मेरी इतनी petabytes of storage है, disks है. मैं कहता हूँ यार मुझे ये चाहिए, मुझे साथ इतना compute चाहिए. For what? I'm only storage guy. I'm only storage guy. मैंने आपको बताया था storage services are provided through software layer. Storage services are provided through software layer. That software layer provides you 4 different services: Blob, files, queues, tables. It also provides you FTP service. To run all those services, to implement security and to check security and many other things, it needs a massive processing layer on top of storage. Okay? It has a set of services through which storage is given to you. To run that thing, all storage must be sitting underneath a big software layer that provides all that services. जिसके अंदर ये वाली भी है, right? What we are trying to do. That software layer has networking, it has firewalls, it has controls to access for each organization, for each of your storage account that it needs to check. It's a massive security and administration framework that is running on top of storage. Right? Have a very clear mental picture of this thing. So what they say is, वो कहते हैं मैं इतना compute चाहिए, and everybody's storage is behind this. Now what happens? This is when I say it's a multi-tenant service. So उस ये जो layer है, ये सारी इनकी सॉफ्टवेयर लेयर है, इन सब के पीछे हर एक के डिफरेंट स्टोरेज अकाउंट्स हैं, राइट? एवरीबडी स्टोरेज अकाउंट्स आर हियर. इट मेक्स सेंस अगर आपने इस डेटा सेंटर के अंदर ऑल द हंड्रेड्स एंड थाउजेंड्स कस्टमर्स को अपनी सर्विसेज देनी है, दे गोना कंट्रोल दैट. वो कहते हैं हम ये इतने रैक्स हैं, उसके ऊपर हमारा ये सारा सिस्टम चल रहा है. एनीबडी कैन कम. एंड सिमिलरली एवरी अदर सर्विस, डेटाबेस सर्विस है, वो कहते हैं हमें इतने रैक्स चाहिए टू प्रोवाइड डेटाबेस सर्विसेज एंड सिक्योरिटी कंट्रोल एवरीथिंग, राइट? I'm going into the background of why we need private endpoints. Now what happens is, ये data center है सारा का सारा, right? This is all running inside a DC. यहाँ पे आपने VMs ले ली अपनी, from a very similar kind of thing, because somebody is managing that, somebody is providing you that. आप गए और आपने कहा जी मैंने इसमें जाके मेरा ये स्टोरेज अकाउंट है, मैंने इसमें कनेक्ट करना, right? So by default, it was like this. So of course it has your authentication and all that, but it is available publicly. That means what I mean by this is it has a URL. Each storage account has a unique URL, right? If I allow public access, somebody can come from internet and access this. Of course, if they are authenticated. तो कंपनीज क्या कहती हैं? we want to shut this down. So the security has two aspects. One is it accessible? Can you reach it? And once you reach it, are you authorized? So the first form of security is if you are not allowed to see it, you should be able to reach it also. So first आप prevention करते हो, right? This for example, let me see क्या example होगी, एक normal data center है. अब यहाँ पे जो machine पड़ी है, you cannot even see from outside. They first of all allow only web servers and certain things and enable those URLs from outside lumps. But inside, once you're outside, you cannot see the servers. You cannot see anything. They will not allow you to touch anything. Right? उसके लिए क्या चीज होती है? If you want to come inside, look at the servers from outside. VPN. Public IP तो it's a non-starting point, right? You never. हमने VPN का किया तो मैंने डेमो किया था आपको उसके लिए. उसके अंदर मैंने public IP किया था for the sake of exercise, right? But you never allow public. तो आप VPN करते हो. हम VPN के ऊपर जाएंगे networking के अंदर. I'm getting into the VPN part, right? What is VPN? How do you do VPN? Because once you set up your virtual network, that's the second thing that you do is set up VPN. 100% of the time, right? VPN is done. But we'll go into the VPN. But anyway, over here, so now, मैंने कहा था ये public URL है. I can say it's a public URL, right? So I'm saying no access on public URL. You should not be able to see my account. It should not be reachable from anybody outside. Of course, software layer जो provide कर रही है, उसी ने firewall provide करनी है मुझे. उसी के अंदर, and you can see also over here कि I did the same thing. ये भी मैं storage account बना रहा हूँ. मैंने कहा है disable. ठीक है? तो सॉफ्टवेयर को जो टेनेंट है, software guys from within the Azure, they are providing this firewall capability within their software layer. You can control it. हम कोई एंटरप्राइज फायरवॉल तो नहीं देख रहे, हम तो सर्विस की अपनी फायरवॉल देख रहे हैं. तो उनकी जो फायरवॉल सर्विस कह रहे हैं दिस अकाउंट ही हैज दिस डन दिस सेकंड. तो फायरवॉल जो सर्विस है उनकी, इट हैज दैट कैपेबिलिटी दैट इट कैन कंट्रोल फॉर ईच अकाउंट डिफरेंटली. अपनी सेटिंग्स हैं उसकी, राइट? सो इट डज दैट. इन द मोमेंट यू डू दैट, सो कमिंग बैक टू दिस, व्हेन यू डू दिस, तो वो कहता है कि मैं पब्लिक एक्सेस ऑफ कर दी, विच यू जस्ट डिड, देन द ओनली वे एक्सेस इज ओवर अ नेटवर्क. सो व्हाट हैपेंस इज from their rack, which is everybody's outside, what they do is they virtually attach, and this is in your for example, when I say VNet, please read it as VNet plus subnet. Nothing can go into a VNet. Everything must go into a subnet. Okay? Nothing can exist on a VNet. Okay? VNet is just a collection of full address. You must have a subnet, which is the slicing. Subnet can take the full addresses. अगर मेरे पास 1/24 है, कितने addresses हैं मेरे पास उसमें? 256. अगर मैंने एक सबनेट बनाना है, उसका क्या रेंज होगी? So my question is, for example, in your quiz, it can come. You have a VNet with 256 addresses. I want one subnet with which covers the full range. What is the range of that? What is the mask of that subnet? I want one subnet. Read the question. One subnet that covers the full range of this VNet. What is the subnet mask of that subnet? 24, right? मैं एक डिफरेंट तरीके से आपको बता रहा हूँ कि वो 256 है तो 24 एक सबनेट चाहिए. Again, be very clear about these things, about subnetting and slicing and dicing of these things. Anyway, so when I say VNet, read as VNet subnet, right? So, मेरी VM VNet के ऊपर है, and I want, so first thing I'll do is it'll create a network card, and internally it will attach it to my storage, and this network card has a private IP now. Of course, because it's sitting on my VNet, it has a private IP. So what will happen is now I can access this storage from this one. This is called a private endpoint. Sorry. Okay, private endpoint. अगर से साफ लिख लूँ इसको तो इस नेटवर्क कार्ड स्टोरेज का होगा या विलेट का ही होगा या विलेट के अंदर सेट होकर स्टोरेज का होगा A network card gets assigned to something. जो private endpoint तो आप जब VNet आप you can create a network card by itself. You don't have to associate it with anything. लेकिन जब हम virtual machine बनाते हैं it has to reside in a subnet. So automatically, since it's a hard requirement, it creates a network card automatically and it attaches it automatically to the VM. Similarly, when we create a private endpoint for a service, what it means is this must be accessible by our through our network card and our VNet automatically as part of creating the private endpoint. It creates a VNet, attaches it to the resource, storage account in our case, and puts it into that subnet. It does all of that, right? So yes, a network card can sit by itself. Just like in our real world scenario, I can take a network card and put a cable in it. It's meaningless because it's not attached to any resource. To access something through that cable and network card, I need to associate that network card with some resource. If अगर वो network card मेरा USB है, I need to put the USB card into my any computer, right? Then I can access it, right? दो network card VM के अंदर होगा, एक storage के अंदर होगा. VM का अपना card है. बड़ा होगा. It can be in the same VNet, but it can be in a different subnet, right? So सर अगर VNet change हुआ तो वो access नहीं करता. VNet cannot be changed. अगर VM दूसरे VNet पे आ रहा. You have to delete it. You cannot change the VNet under any circumstances of anything, right? No. अगर मैं आपको network card दूं, is it component of anything? Think of your real world scenario. मैं आपको network card देता हूं, is it part of a machine? No, it can be. But network card की दो properties हैं. एक property है, it must be associated with the machine and it must be hooked to a network. It has two independent properties. Just think about your real world scenario. Nothing special is going on over here. We are just breaking things in a very clear and distinct ways. Exact thing happens over here in our real world. It just that combination of configuration is called a private endpoint. Okay, I'm getting to there, right? First of all, we need to be very clear what we are doing. So this is I hope it's readable. Private endpoint. Sorry. ठीक है. अब मैं आपको private endpoint में दिखाना जा रहा हूँ. Before I'm just clearing up the concepts, right? Now let's take a look. मैंने कहा I have disabled access. based on our concepts, हमें पता उसे network card बनाना है. It's gonna ask us where is the VNet, which VNet. So it's gonna say, okay, I'm gonna have, so let's say which subnet. So VNet के लिए, I mean private endpoint के लिए, we said you must have a network card जिन्हें virtually attach करना है storage के साथ, because that's the resource. And यहाँ पे हमारे VNet के ऊपर रखना है उसने. VNet means subnet, right? तो उसने मेरे से पूछा, उसने मेरे से ये नहीं पूछा कि आपने नेटवर्क कार्ड बनाना है. उसने कहा प्राइवेट एंडपोइंट बना रहा हूँ, आई विल हैंडल द डिटेल्स. टेल मी आपने कनेक्ट किसको करना है और किस VNet के साथ करना है. किसके साथ करना है, आई एम कमिंग फ्रॉम देयर ऑलरेडी विच इज स्टोरेज अकाउंट, सो इट नोज कि मैं उस स्टोरेज अकाउंट के साथ कर रहा हूं. ओवर हियर it is saying which VNet you want to put it, right? Is it clear? Please make sure it is very clear, okay? तो मैंने अपना VNet select किया where my resources are which are going to access, and I put the subnet. अब क्या होगा? If this is the subnet, this middle row where all the VMs are, and this is the subnet where I'm putting the storage, the private endpoint network card, I can put an NSG in the middle, and I can say this storage account or this private endpoint is reachable by this VM only, that one by that VM only, that one with those VMs only. I can group these VMs, so each application can access only their storage account. If I had not done the subnetting, I would not have been able to control this. वो NSC में लगा रहा हूँ at a subnet. ठीक है? So I can do that. और वो मैं storage की firewall के अंदर भी I can put the control instead of NSG. Please read these things. Everything is going to build on top of each other, right? If you come blank with what we have done previously, it's going to get very difficult to put everything together. I'm trying to repeat as much, but we need to move forward, and we are doing lots and lots of material, okay? So please make sure to do reading as much as possible. आप एक concept like clear picture नहीं ज़हन में बनेगी, you will not be able to understand how things are moving, okay? तो यहाँ पे it is asking me, and what I will do is I will say, और इसके अंदर naming convention is very important. I will mention the naming conventions. I can say EP, and I can say, for example, resource name. For example, CS437, and we give basic the name of the resource. This is what we do, okay? For example, if this is the name I'm picking, ठीक है? मैंने अभी नाम नहीं दिया वहाँ पे उसका, but storage account का, because I came to this one. उसने कहा जी आपका resource कौन सा है? It can be Blob, it can be many different things, whatever kind I'm picking up, right? We'll keep it Blob right now. UAEN is a virtual network, for example. Whatever is mine, ये आप सबके नजर आ रहे हैं यहाँ पे, right? And it says आपका कौन सा subnet है? I'm not doing this one right now. I'll show you. This is a very critical part of this one, okay? The private DNS integration. I'll go over the DNS once I get done with this one, okay? I will add this private endpoint, okay? ये मैंने आपको पहले बता दिया है what it means, Microsoft network routing and internet routing, okay? And I can do is basics. I will pick this one, right? नाम नहीं था यहाँ पे. Same name. And let's see. If I do this, इसका क्या consequences हैं? Positive and benefit, positive and negative. If I make this check mark, cost, the negative part, right? Because cost can go up by 20-30%, maybe more than that. We saw that last time. What else? What is the benefit? नहीं आउटेज के अंदर तो मिलेगा वैसे भी जोन के अंदर भी जी है बट व्हाई व्हाट अबाउट दिस चेक बॉक्स इस चेक बॉक्स का again understand each and every option right why you are checking this because business requires something and you pick these options right I can tell you that I need xyz what I would do you should know these things right I will give you the design question everything will be a design question right I'll tell you I want to do xyz and this is precisely what happens in real world right so make sure whenever you're doing something see kya consequences hai and what benefit you're getting kya benefit what a benefit I'm getting from this checkbox no हाँ भाई अगर मैं ना करूं आई एम ऑलरेडी डूइंग जीआरएस मैं अगर जीआरएस कर रहा हूं in the case of unavailability of the region what will happen फिर क्या फायदा उसका There'll be very big disaster कि मैंने उस जियो एप्लीकेशन किया हुआ data main data center is gone and I still cannot read it this is not what I explained last ये तो लिखा हुआ है but what I explained was something else right it says also but this is not what the understanding is right ये मैंने last time explain किया था आपको yes you can read it while you are backing up again think logically मैं अगर उसको अगर मुझे मिलना ही है उसके in the event of disaster of the main region वो तो मिल रहा है मुझे वैसे ही रीड तो मैं अगर मैं तब डिजास्टर हो गया पहले रीजन के अंदर और दूसरी रीजन के अंदर मैं रीड ही नहीं कर सकता फायदा क्या उसका ऑफ कोर्स इट आई विल बी एबल टू रीड बट दिस रीड ऑप्शन इज reason they're asking much more money for this is while you're copying the data you can read it from over there in the normal operations and the reason they're doing that is क्योंकि उस रीजन के अंदर you're gonna use their compute everything is happening through compute आप कह रहे हो मैं वहां से भी रीड करूंगा they're charging you 30-40% extra because you're gonna use their compute layer right everything is same follows the same logic right same usage they're charging you money wherever you're doing these things right so again if you understand the architecture and I'll explain that also what is happening right there is nothing magic going on anywhere right so always keep the architecture in mind when you have a unique DNS name you have a unique DNS name so if you have a storage account and iska storage dot blob dot whatever and this is being replicated to this is region 1 and this is going to region 2 if there is no disaster इसका भी अपना IP है इसका भी अपना IP है now look what happens यहां पे in a normal scenario if you go to this URL it will always point to this IP that means you are never able to reach this guy there is no magic going on understand the underlying architecture अगर आप यहां पे आते हो इस URL के ऊपर जिसका है and when you do not have read access this guy points to this directly there is no way that you can read this one so in the event of disaster what happens this thing goes away this thing starts pointing to this in the event of disaster. Okay. Now we bring in the read access situation into this one where they charge you more money, right? Why? What happens with the read access? And the read access is, if I do this, region 1, region 2, fully qualified domain name of storage account. This is with GRS with read access, right? You get an FQDN2 that has read access only. Okay. That guy will still point over there. This guy, you can read data from over there. That's how you're able to read. नहीं वो तो अब ये हम क्यों करते हैं इसको? What is the business scenario? Business scenario is, I want to do backups, I want to read, I want to do reporting, I want to do whatever without putting pressure and extra load on this storage. This is the same mentality, same architecture that happens in the databases. कि आप main copy code you don't touch for the reporting, but the reporting can drain the resources when it's doing so many queries. Backups can drain system resources, right? तो आप कभी भी main copy को touch नहीं करते for administrative and reporting purposes. You always do that on the secondary copy, right? And that's why people or companies are willing to pay extra money to allow read access on this one, if this is what you need. Okay. Huh? This is a normal working. This is not failover, right? This is a normal with the read access enabled. ये मैं आपको ये समझा रहा हूँ when you do this. नहीं मैंने एक ब्लैक पिक्चर बनाई है which is nothing is down. मैं आपको नॉर्मल वर्किंग ऑपरेशंस बता रहा हूँ इसके, right? There is nothing down over here. This is a normal working situation with GRS RA, right? This is GRS with RA read option enabled, that checkbox enabled. This is what's happening. Okay. Read access is enabled on the GRS. This is what's happening. In a normal situation, you can read. In a disaster situation, if you have this, right, well, FQDN of the main guy goes to the DR site automatically anyway. I mean, I can say, for example, I have region 1. I can have, for example, अगर मैं इसको GZRS कहता, right? इसमें अगर GZRS कहता मैं इसको, I could have zone 1, zone 2, zone 3, right? और यहाँ पे it will be LRS. Right? This is GZRS with RA option. And RA option is only available when you have geo option enabled, right? It is not there on ZRS. It doesn't make sense if you think about it architecturally. And of course, LRS doesn't make sense because it's still in the same data center, right? So this is what it is. I think this one you can enable. You can research on it. I think that they'll charge a little bit more. They are saying that within 15 minutes we'll have make sure that application is going on. Okay. Anyway, yeah, I think I need to do some extra lectures. I think it takes long time to go over the. Where is my mouse? Right. So yeah. So we were. Let me see where we were. I'm networking में आया. Let me see why it is still complaining. I'll pick this one again. Advanced. ये सारी सॉफ्टवेयर लेयर है, FTP access, on and different कि मैंने cover किए थे last time. Okay, so please make sure to go over them. I'm just rehashing many different things. Okay, so let's take a look where we are right now. यहाँ से मैंने actually start करना था आज का. So this is blob storage, right? ये हमने अभी तक पढ़ा था blob storage का, storage accounts and all those things, right? This is what blob storage is. So generally, unstructured data, semi-structured data, we can stick over here, right? Audio, video की streaming के लिए आपने video file करनी है for streaming and for all. Think about as some backend for YouTube kind of service, right? It's very cheap. It's about 2 cents a gigabyte, right? On these things. You can imagine the amount of storage required right away. Jabki har video is this much, and then top of that, you have a very big software layer, right? Always think about these software services as engineers. Okay, what is going on? कितनी heavy processing हो रही है, कितनी storage की requirement है, कितनी compute की requirement है, right? On those kind of things. And you can create storage account है हमारा, for example, some production, for example, उसमें containers बना रहे हैं, we are putting stuff over there, right? Yes, setting that you will be using in your programming assignment 1 as well, right? To enable, since everything is sitting inside storage container, storage account, you cannot do anonymous on this and have it protected in the storage account, because storage account के अंदर आओगे आप, उसके बाद container को access करोगे, right? Again, look at this one, okay? You can enable it, for example, anonymous access, or disable it, and so on and so forth, right? So there are various kind of access modes that you can do in the blobs, right? This is the interesting part, right? ये मैंने last time भी cover किया था. You can put into different access tiers, pool and archive, and there is one more, I think, something else also. Why 30 and why 180 days? ये मैंने last time explain किया था आपको और दिखाया था आपको ये. Because cost of accessing data is very, very high. So there is no hard rule of 30 and 180, but idea is अगर 30 days के अंदर एक दफा access करते हैं, it's fine. आपने 2-4 दफा access किया करें, then keep it in hot tier, because access cost is so high, it'll cost you same as hot tier. So put it over there, because we have seen how cheap it becomes, especially in the archive tier and like that, right? Same thing 180 days. उसकी access cost is so high, अगर आपने एक दो दफा ज्यादा access किया in archive tier, वो कहते हैं then put in the cold tier, right? So that ये कोई hard or fast rules नहीं है, but they're correlating this access cost, which we saw last time from the pricing calculator, and with the access time, how many times you're doing that, right? क्या चीज? नहीं नहीं, ये आपने बताना है उसको कि मैंने कहाँ पे डेटा रखना है. You can modify it. खुद वाला मैं बताने लगूँ किस तरह करना है. And this is the key functionality, right? What you were asking. Blob lifecycle management tools. ये कहते हैं कि as data is sitting, you don't have to go and manually move it around. Let's say organization की policy है कि 6 महीने के बाद data should move from hot tier to cool tier. और cool tier में 6 महीने पड़ा, उसकी डेट होगी 6 महीने की पुरानी, then move it out of to archive. इनका साल पुराना हो गया, move it to archive tier. It does this automatically for you. ताकि आपको हर वक्त उसको देखने की जरूरत ना पड़े और आप कॉपी कर रहे हो, वो खुद ही. एंड व्हाई वी डू दैट? टू मैनेज व्हाट? कॉस्ट. ये जो आप डेटा पे इस्तेमाल नहीं कर रहे, you want to move it to the cheaper tiers. So they have provided this workflow automatically on the storage, so it moves it to the different tiers based on your management lifecycle management policy. So this is to manage cost basically, right? And exactly जो आप on premises में करते हो manually, it does that. On premise क्या होता है? आप रैक खरीदते हो, उसमें सबसे most expensive disk NVMe's थोड़ी सी होती हैं, SSDs होती हैं maybe 50% more, and then 100-200% आपकी होती हैं HDDs. And you're doing the same thing on premises. कोई नई चीज नहीं कर रहे वो, but they're automating to make your management life very very easy. So you don't have to worry about it, right? Because it's all about cost. You're providing the best possible value and best possible services on the cloud, right? To manage the cost. आप बता दो उसको, ठीक है? इट इज अप टू यू कि आपको कि आपने लेट से उन्होंने आपको 30 डेज का है कि 30 एक दफा एक्सेस कर रहे हो, बट यू कैन से अगर यूजली क्या होता है, कंपनी कहती है हॉट के अंदर अगर इफ इट्स मोर देन 3 months ओल्ड, मूव इट टू कूल टियर. इट्स नॉट अबाउट हमारे यूजेज के ऊपर, उसने सिर्फ उसकी डेट देखनी है, हमारे यूजेज के ऊपर नहीं कर रहा वो. हमने कहते क्रिएशन डेट, if it's more than 1 year for example or 6 months, move it over there. More than time is cost. It's very expensive. Again, it's about your business policy. जो आप ऑन प्रेमिस भी करते हैं कि ये डेटा मेरी यहाँ मेन NVMe से उठा के SSD में डाल दो क्योंकि आई एम नॉट यूजिंग इट, एंड दिस इज अ वेरी कॉमन थिंग, ठीक है? और ये आप डेटाबेस के अंदर करते हो, पार्टीशनिंग जो करते हो ना, आप उसी एक पार्टीशन आर्काइव कर देते हो, आप डेटा वहां पे मूव कर रहे होते हो, राइट? ये सारी चीजें उन सिस्टम्स के अंदर भी चल रही होती हैं अक्रॉस द सेम स्टोरेज टियर्स, सेम स्टोरेज, कि आपकी पार्टीशन बनाते हो ऑन चीपेस्ट एंड यू डंप द डेटा ओवर देयर बिकॉज यू डोंट केयर कि मुझे क्वेरी विल टेक मोर टाइम. यू आर जस्ट कंसर्न कि मेरी जो मेन डेस्क है जहाँ पे मेरा मेन डेटा है, आई गेट द बेस्ट पॉसिबल आउट ऑफ इट, वैल्यू आउट ऑफ इट. डेटा को हॉट करते हैं कर लो तो वो हमें कॉस्ट करता है, लाजमी बात है. ऑफ कोर्स, ऑफ कोर्स, ऑफ कोर्स, एब्सोल्युटली. अगर आपने वापस मूव करना है, इट विल कॉस्ट यू. और उसके अंदर कई चीजें हैं, राइट? मूव टू पूल, मूव टू आर्काइव एंड डिलीट, यू कैन डू आल्सो. आप डिलीट कर दो फॉर एग्जांपल. सो वट एवर इट इज, अगेन अपने स्टोरेज अकाउंट में each and every concept, go and play with it, okay, in your environment. Unless it goes through your hand, you will not get comfortable and understand this properly. This was the replication जो हमने टर्न ऑन की थी. ये कहाँ पे होती है रेप्लिकेशन? हमने कहा क्या ऑप्शन थी उसकी? We allowed what? एक रेप्लिकेशन ऑप्शन थी लास्ट टाइम. Anybody remembers that? Allow what replication? Nobody remembers? मुझे रिवाइज किया करो. I'm also remembering the same thing जो मैंने पढ़ाया है, right? ये देखोगे करोगे तो आपको भी आ जाएगा. मैंने भी वही जो पढ़ाया मैं वही I'm just you know cross tenant application, right? What is cross tenant application? When the other subscription where you're doing it, it's under a different AD tenant, right? Intra tenant basically. This is for your GRS basically, right? तो आपकी जो replication हो रही है, for example, you can go between accounts, different regions, different container can go to a different container, right? You can enable these replications. ये आप देख लेना, I think should be straightforward. कितना टाइम है हमारे पास? Okay. Now we come to the security part of this, right? There's security attached to everything, right? How do you access the storage, right? ये आपको अपनी application development के अंदर they'll come very very handy. अपनी usage के अंदर everywhere you need to understand how to configure, right? Again, do these things, right? When you go home, spend some time. How do you secure? How do you secure storage? एक तो basic चीज है कि I want the storage to be encrypted. Well, by default it gives you that. By default it gives you, it is at rest, it is encrypted, right? You can also do this कि आप उनको कहो मैं अपनी हार्डवेयर की भेज रहा हूँ आपको, stick it into the अपने वो environment and I want it to be encrypted based on my hardware key. You can do that as well. ये Amazon पहले लेके आया था, then Microsoft introduced the same functionality. Or you can say, I want to protect, you provide me the certificate and the key, software key, and I'll protect it. It is given to you by default. Or you can send your hardware key and get it protected as well. Authentication with Azure AD, which is read as anything Azure AD, ये नाम change हो गया हुआ है to Entra. जो हमारी enterprise authentication है, you can protect it. Only these people can access it. So automatically when you log in to the portal, only those people can access it. For example, if you're sharing something for downloading or something, you can say this group. I can create groups in Entra and I can give it so anybody in that group can download and do whatever with the storage account that you have created. You can attach it to the same authentication layer. मैंने शुरू में पढ़ा था उसका, ठीक है? Then encryption, I can say it must use this protocol, this version of the protocol. For example, एक बड़ा आया था कि TLS 1.1, right? So it had some vulnerabilities. So Microsoft ने recommendation, he set the policy, Azure policy, that all storage accounts should be using TLS 1.2, right? So you try to create a storage account with an older policy, it was failing. So certain policies that you create automatically is, for example, should be using the latest TLS protocol, no backward compatibility. You can set up that it must be Entra ID authenticated. अभी जो आपको मैंने subscription दी हुई है, उसके अंदर, for example, they have set the policy to disable certain things, right? वो एक SSH की जो problem आ रहा है, this is some policy set. I need to see what policies are causing that, right? But you will see those policies being set. एक और चीज that is there with the shared key signature, right? And it's a very nice way to do this. The shared key मैं दिखाता हूँ वो किस तरह बनती है इसकी, right? Anonymous access is, I think, blocked as well. You can check and confirm because of the policy. So a lot of organizations set these basic storage policies कि आप उसकी anonymous access, nobody should be able to enable it, right? It must be enabled over private endpoint. When you think about policies and think about so many configurations of each thing, how can policy look at every possible thing? How? Right? Again, no magic. No magic going on. Every resource, when you create, is based on what? What language? What is the blueprint that gets created when you're configuring something? All the configuration is stored in which kind of JSON. So ये जो मैं सारा portal में कर रहा हूँ, next. When you say submit, it creates a big JSON, right? a JSON thing. और वो JSON करने के बाद what it does is JSON करने के बाद it gets submitted to the portal. And then the security layer comes into the picture and the policy layer. Security layer पहले check करती है आपकी कि are you allowed to submit this job? Are you authorized? Yes. You can create VM. Yes. Okay, go ahead. Then the policy layer gets applied on this. Yes, you are authorized, but let's say policy allows you to do this here. And every configuration of the resource, policy knows. So when you say policy, you should be doing this or not, it actually is giving you the options from the same JSON schema of that resource. Each and every checkbox you can control through policy because schema is identical. If you're controlling through VM, it has the same JSON structure that it is looking at to control. So एक option you can control with policy and say what you're allowed and what you're not allowed. So VM जब आप बना रहे हो, VM के अंदर you can turn off, for example, VM with public IP. हमने public IP कहाँ पे enable किया था by the way? Anybody remembers? क्या ऑप्शन करते हो public IP आ जाता है उसका? NSG has nothing to do with public IPs, right? NSG is bound to what? NSG is bound to a point to the subnet और ये network card के ऊपर, right? जो traffic आ रही है उसका creation से कोई ताल्लुक नहीं है VM के options के साथ, right? जो हमने किया था ना option उसके अंदर where you go and say allow public access first screen it shows you in the end कि जहाँ पे आप वो ports allow करते हो SSH के और वो वहाँ पे if you don't turn it off it will create the public IP. Understand this ही मैंने समझाया था last time भी आपको. मैं बार-बार sorry don't take it personally मैं बार-बार आपको कह रहा होता हूँ spend time on these things, right? जितना read करोगे in the calls हमारी calls चल रही होती हैं you do not have option कुछ देखने के if you know you are talking about it, right? You do not have option to think about and read documentation. They are talking about architecture, details, क्या कर सकते हैं, क्या नहीं कर सकते. If you have not read, if you have not done it, you will not be able to understand. एक कॉल के लिए कम से कम 2-3 दिन की preparation चल रही होती है just to do everything by hand, read everything again and again, right? Don't take these courses, especially the practical ones, as okay, when the PA is due, when the assignment is due, and when the quiz is, right? Spend time, अपना सारा हफ्ता, अपने weekends, spend appropriate time. That's how you build knowledge, right, and skills. The anonymous होता है कि anybody can access. So, I mean, by definition, it happens over public IP. Okay, internally you know the person already, right? But I can enable anonymous access internally as well over a private IP. Access is separate, authorization is separate, right? So anonymous access is part of authorization, and public IP is where you are coming from, right? So shared access signature says a combination of accessibility of services and times and everything. And if I give that string to anyone, they can access that services for that period of time. So for example, I can say this person, this key has permission to read from this time to this time and based on this IP. And it creates a string. This is called shared access signature. A shareable text string that can be shared by anyone. It does not matter who I give it to. It embeds the key automatically. And based on this configuration I'm putting, it creates an encoded thing, right? I can put that in the API and I can do. So API to access storage, it allows, it says, okay, how do you want to connect? And you can say shared access signature says, give me the string, right? and you put this string. ये आपका एक tool है, I will mention this, it's called Azure Storage Explorer. It's an amazing tool. The storage team has built using the APIs, and you can try your own authentication, your own ID, shared access signature, keys, and whatever to connect to your own storage. It's an amazing way to learn about storage, what it's capable of, right? Azure Storage Explorer, download it. It's a free tool and allows you to play with storage in every possible way. So you can test your shared access signature over there. It'll ask you, how do you want to connect? And you can say, I want SAS key, and it'll say, okay, paste it over here. So यहाँ पे जो आप बनाओगे, you can paste, you can get it from over here and copy and paste into the tool. You have APIs, and if you're building your own applications, whatever you're doing, and it's a very common thing, right? We do these things. We don't hand it out like this. इसका एक और service है called key vault. The vault has all the keys and passwords. You put it over there, and every 1 week we can generate it automatically and put it over there. So application can read every time it runs and do it. So every day you can recycle the keys, create the new signature, and put it in the vault. So every day this signature is changing, and your application just read from the vault the new thing every time they run, right? Its purpose is to be able to allow application access and to change it every day to make sure it doesn't get leaked. अगर leak हो भी गई है, तो anybody, and then you also say you can only read. If somebody gets it, they cannot destroy your storage and delete anything with this key. They log in and they can only read the data. So your idea that is to give minimal possible permissions to be able to do what you need to do, right? कोई key होगी और to delete or to modify, you will not allow all the application. Only that application that you know needs to modify this, right? So keys are given. It's very much similar to, for example, in our real world scenarios, right? Where you say, okay, there's for example, अब यहाँ पे भी काम कर रहे हैं IT के अंदर, IST के अंदर. Some people have read access to your data. Some people can go in the back end, have higher permissions to modify and do certain things. इस तरह, for example, अब ये जो आपका system चलता है, for example, prerequisite waiver का, only somebody can do it, right? You have to give request, approvals, and all that. Somebody else can go and modify, right? Only specific people have that modification permissions, right? Very similar thing. Everybody can read, but only some people can modify. They have their permissions and roles. Very similar things, concept happens over here also, right? Right. So SAS is essentially shared access signature. What is it? It's basically URI, uniform resource indicator, a string that it knows which storage account to reach to and what the policies are, right? So storage का उसके अंदर URL built in होता है. You will see that, and उसके अंदर उसका token होता है basically encrypted. It'll automatically get decrypted when you connect, right? So you can see, okay, this is the SAS token, right? इसके अंदर जो SAS token है ना, this is the SV part from over here, right? ये पूरा चीज है if you want to access, and over here SAS token is this part, okay, this part. ये सारी settings are encrypted in this one. Okay? और इसके अंदर for example जो storage explorer है, you can check these things, right? पूरा URL के लिए storage URL will ask you, or the SAS token, and you can grab both of these things from over here. तो यहाँ पे storage access के अंदर for example, let me see कितना time है हमारे पास. Let me just show you this one. Okay, I want to show you. We have a little bit time. तो यहाँ पे I can say, let's see, I can review and create. validation. Let's see what the issue is. Couldn't read the By the way, अगर आपका रिसोर्स ग्रुप जो है एक रीजन में है, you can create stuff in that resource group in any other region, right? Understand the ramifications of that, but most of the resources you can create in any other region, okay? अब क्या मसला हुआ है? उसे नेटवर्किंग का मसला क्यों दिया? नेटवर्किंग के लिए टू अटैच इट द रिसोर्स मस्ट बी वेयर द वर्चुअल नेटवर्क इज. ये मैंने आपको वर्चुअल वीएम के अंदर भी बताया था. एग्जैक्टली सेम थिंग, एग्जैक्ट सेम प्रिंसिपल्स विल बी देयर कि जहां पे वीनेट है, इफ यू वांट टू अटैच anything to it, the resource must be in the same data center, right? वो कह रहे हैं आप नहीं हो वहां पे, so we'll go back over here, we'll say UAE North, okay? But your best way to learn is ये slides खोल के ना go over each and every option, read it and do it, right? I can do a small video next time. Maybe I'll post it, right? Okay, here it is. I just want to show you the SAS token quickly.